Welcome to Path to Peace with Todd Perlmutter. I'm your host, Todd Perlmutter. Our world is a projection of our collective consciousness. The more peace we bring into our lives, the more peace we bring into this world. So let the transformation begin. We live in interesting times. We live in an age where technology can fake videos, where anybody can make deep fakes and show anybody saying anything. Governments, businesses, groups, and organizations can all put out content and hide behind anonymous people who don't reveal their biases, their funding, or their sources. And all of this can leave us wondering, how are we supposed to find out the truth? How can we avoid being manipulated, getting overwhelmed with contradictory information to the point where we just want to bury our head in the sands because we don't know what to believe? This flood of information is one of the most defining characteristics of our time. And while it is a relief to have so much information at our fingertips, it can make it almost impossible to know what is truth, to know what to believe, and to know what is false. And I think about how Orwell in 1984 wrote about a government censoring truth and information from its people. Whereas Aldous Huxley, in A Brave New World, portrayed a world with so much information that people failed to realize what was important and worth focusing on. And we're not far off from Aldous Huxley. We're not far off from becoming numb to all of the stories that we see every single day. And how can we not? It's too much to take in. And like Aldous Huxley in A Brave New World, we are hoping that if we drug ourselves and subdue ourselves enough, that we can reach a state of equilibrium and contentment if we just mask our meaninglessness and hopelessness. But there is a third option, and I call it the spiritual option, and it is the only way forward if we are going to come out of this time of epidemic mental suffering. And this third option is essential because mental suffering is what leads to the creation of outer suffering, because we can't take care of our fellow humans and ourselves when we are barely getting through the day without organizing our lives around the alleviation of our suffering through substances or distractions or work or whatever else we depend on to avoid our fears, our worries, and inner conflicts that we bury beneath the surface. So here is the spiritual option. So we don't have to bury our head in the sands. We don't have to disconnect from everything we're hearing, withdraw from society, shut out the noise, but instead be able to handle reality as it is. And that is to recognize, just like our own thoughts, just like our thoughts are constantly chattering in our mind, constantly telling us what we should fear, what we should avoid, what we should do, what to believe. And it's often so negative and in conflict with those around us and ourselves and our deepest, truest nature. is to recognize that this is just words. These are just stories. Whether it is in the media, whether it is what our friends are saying and thinking, whether it is society or our family, it is all just words and stories from someone else's often scared and fearful ego. And so we can treat it just like it's our own thoughts. What we see in the news, what we see politicians say, we don't have to believe or reject. We can understand the deeper reality that these are just single opinions that will always be limited and incomplete, no matter whether they come from our side or the other side, whether they come from someone we trust or distrust. Oftentimes, it feels safer to trust and give faith to the people who tend to agree with what we think. But the truth is, we never fully know. We never truly know. And that can be scary, but it is where liberation is born, because it is the truth. Now, I don't mean to become apathetic or apolitical or just keep to ourselves, don't fight for causes. Far from it. It means to fight with our hearts, to love without limits, to protect ourselves and our families, and to still serve others and their needs. This is how we build a better world. And as we fight for that better world with our hearts and our love, we maintain an openness to other perspectives that are in complete contradiction to ours. We stay open to building bridges, to seeing that which unites us, even though most of the media we consume may be telling us what divides us. And we can remember that this is just an algorithm serving up that content to keep us engaged. It is just media producers serving us whatever keeps us watching and engaged. Just like how food scientists try to develop processed foods that are the most addictive, that we can't control ourselves over. There is the same thing happening with the media that we consume. It is hacking into our human nature in order to maintain our attention, in order to lower our mood so that we are more willing to buy a product that will make us happy. And so we don't need to reject or accept. We can just let it be and maintain that self-awareness on how it makes us feel, how it makes us behave, what kind of emotion it's trying to evoke from us, and simply staying present makes a peaceful foundation beneath those emotions that are being evoked. And we won't get carried away in one direction or the other. And we can maintain our calm and clarity so that we can recognize what speaks to our truth, what speaks to harmonious living and to a future built on love, compassion, peace, and oneness. It's very easy to lose ourselves to emotional stories, to compelling speakers, and get caught up in screaming at enemies and protesting in a way that turns hateful, instead of one that unites and recognizes our common humanity and that which we all share, which is to live a life of peace and safety. We are all human beings, and we are all 99% the same, with the same needs and desires. And yet we focus 100% of our attention on those 1% differences, and we lose touch with that humanity. And so the first step is really just recognizing what kind of thoughts and emotions the content we consume make us feel, what they are trying to motivate us to do, think, or feel, and to remain in that centered space where we can actually choose, not be misled. To never lose sight of the fact that we don't know for sure. Because when we do know for sure, which is never possible, we can be convinced to do terrible things against our fellow humans. But when we stay in connection with that deepest part of who we are, which is pure love, then we have the wisdom to make sure that our actions are treating others as we would want to be treated. And only then can we build the world we want to live in. Because the other option is to become the things and people that we are against. Because we either act with love or we act with hate. And the one we choose is the one we bring into the world. Extremes are dangerous in either direction. We can try to wipe out all of our enemies, but we will only create a never-ending cycle of hate and violence that will never end, because that can only end when there is one person left standing. And we also don't want to go the other direction, where we give away all our belongings and money, and then we're no longer of any use to anybody. And so we have to strike that balance. We have to learn to love and protect. We have to fight injustice, but unite people in the process. We must help when we can, and maintain the wisdom to make sure we're also helping ourselves and our loved ones. Whether it is our thoughts, or the media that we consume, or the opinions of our friends and family, they can only control us if we let them, if we believe these limited perspectives and opinions and judgments as fact. But no word can ever be a fact. The word apple is not an apple. There is no left to right political spectrum. It's not a circle or a horseshoe. These are just the human ego, or the thinking mind, trying to analyze and interpret reality, but it is blocking us from seeing reality. This is the antidote to becoming extreme, to going down a dark rabbit hole, to getting lost in more thought and obsession. And we do this by noticing the nature of our thoughts. If they are based in fear and anger, or love and peace. And when they are in love and peace, we have the creative energy to find creative solutions, to turn enemies into allies. And the world needs that now more than ever. The second thing that we can all do and must do when dealing with this deluge of global mass information is to turn our attention to the here and now, to the reality right in front of our eyes, to making sure we're taking care of our neighbor down the street, that we are doing everything we can to build beautiful, close communities, that we are giving as much, if not more, attention to our personal relationships, that we're not just spending time with loved ones while each of us are on our phones, but we are actually giving them our presence, the greatest gift of all, which has the healing energy that can help people feel seen and heard and cared for. We can plant these gardens in our neighborhoods, and we can plant them in our minds. And when the whole world cares for their corner of it, we will see those global big problems simply disappear. It starts within. It starts in our surroundings. And this energy and mindset and attitude is more contagious than yelling, convincing, arguing, and feeling superior. Often it's that inner work that is the hardest work. It's much easier to join a protest than it is to recognize, face, and deal with the anger and hatred in our own hearts. But this is where we must begin. If we only focus on the outward, external causes, we could even become president. But unless we are awakened to oneness, unless we see with the clarity of presence the consequences of our choices, we will keep making the same mistakes. We will keep trying to deal with the symptoms of our inner life through external means that only cause more problems that will then need to be cleaned up, instead of removing the cause of those problems to begin with, which were and always will be the state of our minds, the level of our thinking, and the quality of our consciousness. The history of humanity has been to come up with solutions for problems that only create more problems and thus need more solutions. That is why every election cycle, the politicians can keep running on all the problems that have still not been fixed forever and ever. But there is a future where instead of running on problems to fix, we run on making this world even better, even more beautiful, more prosperous for everyone, free from conflict because we have removed inner conflict, free from greed and corruption because we have removed the selfishness in our hearts. This is where we can reach as a world, and it starts with each and every one of us. There is no society without every single one of us who make it up. We are our corrupt politicians. We are the wars they conduct. We are the destruction of Earth's habitats. And we are the solution. Much love. Thank you so much for listening. I've recently put up on YouTube a very important video about those times that we hit rock bottom or when we feel like our lives are just spiraling out of control. And I'm very happy to share it with everyone. You can check it out on youtube.com/Todd Perlmutter. Share it with anyone you know who is going through a hard time. It's titled, "Let This Be Your Wake-Up Call." And I hope wherever you are, whatever you're going through, that with this video's help, we can make this moment your rock bottom. So there is no deeper place to go. There is no worse event that needs to happen. And that from here, there's only up. Thank you. You have been listening to Path to Peace with Todd Perlmutter. Being here and putting in this important and noble work is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself and others. If you found this podcast even a little helpful, please make sure to leave a review so it can reach others who may be in need. And remember, the path to peace starts with a single step.